Welcome to Christy Iwuchukwu's Brilliance TV show, where we spotlight today's top business leaders, entrepreneurs, unique and most successful individuals. And I am super excited today. We have Super Monday today, and we have two fantastic, fabulous, great speakers. We had one at 4, and now we are having one at our regular time at 6 p.m. This is the show that we have every Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Show is for you, and if you would like to be a part of this show, I would love for you to contact me at info@chosenpathglobal.com, info@chosenpathglobal.com. But who am I? My name is Christy Iwuchukwu, aka Lady Christy, CEO and founder of Chosen Path Global, helping women find their voice, speak up, speak out, and gain confidence. And I am delighted to be joined by my guest star today, Jon Block. But let me tell you a little bit about Jon Block. I probably will not do much justice if I introduce him, but Jon is not only an entrepreneur, he is good at helping people hone in on their signature talk. Among everything else that he has done, he takes his clients from where they were to where they want to go. And that is really telling your story in such a way that it will have a great impact to your audience. Telling your story in such a way that audience can see the value of using their personal story so that others can be helped as well. So please help me welcome my guest today, Jon Block.
All right, and the crowd goes wild. So great to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Christy. I just love this platform for you. I think it's so perfect for your radiant personality.
Thank you so much. Jon, you and I met back in 2016, is that correct?
We met at the PSA conference, the Public Speakers Association. Yeah.
And right after that, I was fortunate enough to take one of your courses, which I enjoyed so much, and we have been connected ever since.
That's right.
And then we saw again at PSA conference this year at Las Vegas, right?
Yeah, I think this year, first year you were an attendee.
Palm Springs. Yeah, I was an attendee.
Palm Springs, and then this year you were a speaker.
Yes, I shared the stage with so many great individuals, great speakers. So I really appreciated that. And that's what Tanya was good for, really connecting people and connecting speakers all over the world. So I was so grateful to be a part.
It's a great indication of your growth to go from participant 1 year and then you're on stage the next year.
Absolutely. And see, that's what can happen when one takes your course. Because I tell you, I learned so much from that course, and it has really helped me to be able to step out and be able to tell my story in such a way that it will impact life. And that's what you're here to share your knowledge with our audience. So I'm so thankful that you're here. So I am going to start by just asking you to maybe pull back the curtain a little bit. You know, behind every successful person, whether you're a business person, a professional, behind every successful person, there's a journey that they had to walk to get them there. So pull the curtain a little bit and take us back through your journey.
Sure. So at this point, I'll start by sharing, because some people might not know, I've been leading my company for 7 years now, Speaker Venture, and I've personally mentored over 1,500 business leaders to use public speaking to grow their businesses. A lot of it is, as you said, crafting their signature presentations with them and really bringing out their authentic, powerful expression from the stage. And the result of which is that they create more clients and business than ever before. And I've spoken on 500 plus stages myself all across the country. And when it comes to peeling back the curtain and how it got there, it really starts when I was 12 years old. When I was 12, I got called ugly a lot. My mother's Chinese, my father's white, so I looked different from the other kids. So I got teased a lot. And on top of that, I was a really shy kid. I was in my head. I thought about things a lot. So I bring that up because so many people feel like they got some fear of speaking and it's really uncomfortable and awkward. At that stage, I was as far removed from wanting to be in front of people as possible because I had it that I didn't have the right look. I wasn't good with people, like I just wasn't good with them in terms of relationship building. So that's when I decided I was going to become a writer. That was my entire path in life, was just to be a writer. And then what turned for me was after spending my entire 20s pursuing screenwriting in Hollywood, when I was 29 years old, I hadn't made any money yet from screenwriting. I moved back in with my parents, and I felt like I was just the world's biggest loser. That I had the one thing I was passionate about, I made no money at. So I thought, well, I should just get a regular day job. In my case, going to Applebee's. That was the last day job I had. And at that point, I did what I found a lot of other people do when nothing else in life seems to be working. I discovered personal growth. So for me, I watched The Secret a lot on DVD. I went to read books and went to seminars. And this first seminar I went to, I remember it was right after my 30th birthday, a week after. Two amazing things happened. One is I met the woman who became my wife, Ronnie, whom you, Christy, know. And the second thing is that I saw that the reason that we're here is to empower others. That's my belief to my core. It's about the difference we make for other people. And that meant a new career focus for me, which meant being a coach. So I remember making my business cards, and then I read Jon Block Life Coach, and I went to all the networking events. And from my Hollywood background, I thought that's just what you do to grow your business. So there I am at the networking events doing what's called the spray and pray method, or the card dealer, where you're passing it on to everyone. And people were just actively avoiding me. I remember trying to close business on the spot and say, hey, you want to have a good life, right? You don't want to stay stuck in this crappy existence. You want to have a good life? Well, then I'll be your coach. And people were just not receptive at all, just disgusted actually by me. And then all my childhood stories about being not good with people came flaring up again. So then I decided to go online, and that's where my Facebook page, I thought, oh, well, I'm just going to work on my Facebook fan page, and then that'll grow the business that way. And as anyone who's gone that path, you might get a lot of likes, but no business. And that's what happened to me. I remember hitting 100 likes and thinking, oh, I made it as a business owner. Only wait, I still have no clients and no income coming in. And then I thought, well, maybe I'm just not meant to be an entrepreneur. I should just really go back to Applebee's and try to get promoted to regional manager one day. I had this notion that public speaking would be a good way to grow one's business. I've been to seminars. I bought stuff before. I understood that there was an authority that came from being on stage. Problem was, I didn't think I was cut out for it at all. I thought, I'm not good looking enough. I'm not likable enough. I mean, just look how people treat me at the networking events. Clearly, I'm not a likable person. And the biggest one for me, though, was that I'm not expert enough. Like, who am I to get up on stage? But then I knew that if I didn't get up on stage, it was going to be back to Applebee's. So I said, I'm going to give it a shot. And I bombed horribly the first few times, and I had to learn a lot about making offers from stage, where at first I was way too masculine and said, if you don't buy, then you're going to stay a loser and you're not going to transform your life, right? Basically, that's what I was saying. Or went the opposite way, where I just felt like I was such a jerk saying those things. So I decided I'm going to be the nice guy and said, well, you can take a business card if you like, but no pressure. The last thing I want to do is make you feel uncomfortable. And people thought I was a nice guy, but no clients got created from that. But eventually, I discovered the power of having a signature presentation, and I really crafted this and delivered it. And even though it was really sloppy, I was able to create $12,000 in revenue from one speaking engagement. And that may be, if you're listening to this, a lot of money, maybe a little money to you. That's not really the point. The point is that was, for me, the breakthrough. That was the next level. And I would assert that if you're listening to this, you have your own next level and a point of no return, because that's what it was for me. Once I knew I could do this, then I could do it again and again and again. And that's what I did. And then eventually founded Speaker Venture, which became about helping people discover their signature presentation so they can earn 3,000, 5,000, 12, 15, 25,000 from presentations. We've had clients who've earned $35,000 from their very first presentation out of our weekend, people who regularly earn $5,000 to $10,000 from each of their presentations as a result of what they created with us. It creates a system that truly works for them. That's why I love it, because it liberates business owners from the financial anxiety. It allows them to be fully authentic on stage and to live their purpose and serve the people here to serve.
Wow. So what is, for somebody who doesn't know what you're talking about, what is a signature talk?
Great question. So a signature talk is your system for when you get on stage that's designed to get people to say yes to whatever you're offering. Okay? So I call it the system deliberately, because as business owners, the one thing that tends to be missing most is systems. And it's essential for something as important as the marketing of your business that you have a system. And that's what we're referring to as speaking as marketing, that you're able to go on stage and have this reliable system that works. In terms of how it works, a signature talk is something that can range between typically 20 to 60 minutes, and it's got 4 key parts to it. There's the opening, then the personal story, then the content, and the offer. And I can go through those individually. Should I do that, Christy?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the opening, this is where you want to hook the audience right away. And a good way to hook the audience is by asking questions right away. And these should be easy, immediate, no-brainer, yes, I'm in type questions. So for instance, if someone is in the health niche, and let's say they help people lose weight, right? Then if their talk title is called, their signature talk title is how to lose 30 pounds in 6 months the healthy way, something like that. Then the questions that someone could ask right away is, who here wants to lose weight the healthy way? Who here wants to feel great in their body, right? These are ways of getting your audience to say yes right away to you. And hopefully the idea is that they feel, wow, this person knows what I want. I'm glad I came. Then you can move to an acknowledgement piece is valuable, where you want to say, thank you for being here. And I encourage people to not make this a generic one, which is like, hey, I know you have a lot of places you can be. Thank you for being here. But actually peer into the souls of your people. Anytime you can do that is going to be more powerful. So in the case of this health niche, you might say, thank you for being here, because it takes a lot of courage to actually show up and dedicate yourself to making this kind of shift regarding your body, right? It's a very sensitive issue, and it says a lot about you that you're willing to be here, right? And the effect on the audience is that they feel like, wow, I really like and trust this person, because they just point out something, and I feel like it's very safe with this person as well. So then you would then share what the talk is about, why it's important, and that's useful because they got to know why they came there, and then make sure that it's going to be valuable for them. And those are some of the points for the opening. Then the personal story is the second major piece. And the reason that's so important is that on one hand, you hear the expression facts tell, stories sell. And the reason that exists is because the power of narrative is such where that's how we'll always, I think, communicate to people the most effectively. And this is why movies are the most dominant medium. And since humans could communicate, storytelling has been so key. And many people miss the boat on this because they, few things. They either don't tell the right personal story, for themselves. They'll maybe pick something that was, sure, really tough to go through and maybe played a very key part of their life, but it's not the right personal story. And the reason it's not the right personal story is that it doesn't really relate to why the audience came there for. Another reason is that it may not be delivered well, or there isn't this space of emotion and really letting the story land with people in certain key places. So I'll use myself as an example. I have no tricks. I'm always fully transparent. So the personal story I shared earlier in this conversation was very specifically designed for my audience, speaker entrepreneurs. And the way that you can see how it's designed is that, one, when I talked about my credibility, first off, the fact that I've mentored 1,500 plus entrepreneurs use public speaking to grow their businesses. I've spoken on 500 plus stages myself. That's intended to create the effect of credibility for my listeners. Then when I was in my low point, when I said that I was broke and facing a day job like Applebee's, well, the intention is that be relatable for anyone who's been in business and is starting a business. They can appreciate that either they're in it themselves or they have been there in the past. So it's very relatable for them to be broke and facing a day job they don't want to have to get. Or when I talked about bombing from stage was another one, how I was way too masculine and kind of shaming the people or trying to get them to buy, or I was way too passive and this kind of more feminine energy of like, oh, I just want everyone to get along and like me, right? This is kind of the extremes of masculine, feminine energies. And I bring that up because also it's very relatable. Every audience I've spoken to has had some experience of it not going well with speaking. That's why most people are so fearful of it, is that what little experience they have had has not gone well. And it's common that if they have actually made a serious go of it, that they've gone to one of those two extremes of either like the masculine or feminine side, right? Oftentimes both. So it's really important the personal story to be relatable, and then sharing how I climbed out of it, which is through the power of the signature presentation and how it produced that breakthrough, the $12,000 in revenue. And now this is why I do what I do, to empower speaker entrepreneurs to fully awaken themselves and awaken humanity through their messages. So the personal story is really important, and I could say more about it, though let me check in with you, Christy. Is there anything that you feel we should dive into further?
Yes, go ahead. So we have, you said 4 stages or 4 contents or topics in terms of the system that makes up the...
Yeah, there's 4 key elements, we'll say, of
4
the
key
signature.
elements, okay.
So we just covered the second one, and I want to pause to see if you or anyone else has questions about personal story, because it is so important. And we can certainly move on because I know our time is limited.
So go ahead and finish, and at the end, people will ask the question at that time.
Okay,
I think I already explained to them how it works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the effective personal story, just to sum up that, is with the right personal story that speaks to your audience and is very relatable, they'll know that they have to say yes to working with you. And only 15 minutes or so into your hour-long presentation, they'll know that you're the one for them. That's how powerful it can be. So it's very much worth taking the time and making the investments to really get that personal story down, because it is worth gold. And oftentimes when I'm doing presentations, so when I spoke in Las Vegas at Tanya's event, and many times my whole presentation is my personal story. And then I invite people to connect with me afterwards, and it works really well. That's why I do that. So then the next element is the content. So content is the information or education part of your presentation. And for most people, this is by far the easiest part to share, because it's just sharing your expertise. So people who come from an academic background, for them, this is by far the easiest, because that's all they're doing, is just sharing information from the front of the room. And there's a lot more to speaking than just that, right? it's a whole different animal and sport that we're playing for our kind of speaking as marketing and grow your business versus a professor. But the simple way to think of content is that you can have 3 steps that you're going to share with people that's designed to help them achieve whatever thing they came there for. So if someone came there for losing the weight, to use that example, then you could give 3 distinct steps they can take to help them achieve that, right? So one could be change their mindset around food. Another is to join a program where they can have the partnership and accountability, something like that. So those would be the 3 steps you share. Now, it's important that your steps be easy to understand, yet hard to implement by themselves, right? You can't have a step, something like, oh, well, just, go for a walk in the morning. So something like that is easy to understand, but also too easy to implement, right? It's like, well, what do they need you for? If it's that easy to implement. But when you have it easy to understand, yet hard to implement, it's something like change your mindset around food. An audience member can understand, especially if you're the speaker explaining this point, what do you mean by that exactly? Yeah, I do need to change my mindset around food. I think about food in a certain way where maybe I find a certain emotional attachment, and fulfillment from it that maybe is not the healthiest. I can change my mindset around food, but then certainly someone is not going to know how to do that by themselves. And that's where you as an expert would come in, which takes us now into the offer, which is the 4th element. And your offer is really the culmination of, everything up until then, specifically with the content pieces. It's the 3 steps that you share with them during the content is the 3 steps that you cover them with them in your offer. So I'll say it again, but first let me define just what an offer is. So an offer is your call to action. It's your invitation at the end for people to stay connected with you and ultimately to work with you. And if this is speaking to grow your business, which it is much of the time, it's the opportunity to pay you money for some kind of service exchange. So most people are afraid of making offers, certainly when they're starting out. That's their experience. I know I was petrified of it. And the key mindset shift I want to address right out of the gate is that it's your moral obligation to make offers. An example I use is if a doctor has a cure to cancer and they're leading a seminar and the attendees are there because they either have cancer or they're worried about getting cancer one day or a loved one has cancer. They've come to see this doctor who has the cure to cancer. The doctor has a moral obligation to make an offer for the cure to cancer. If he or she lets their feelings about being too salesy or pushy or being judged get in the way of making the offer, everyone suffers as a result. It lacks integrity that the doctor would make it about themselves rather than the people they're here to serve. We each have our own equivalent of curing cancer. I really believe that for our people, what they are uniquely dealing with, we each have our cure to cancer that we're there to impart to them. And I use this example deliberately because a lot of people have trouble owning their value. And it's more comfortable, I think, to be in denial of their own value than to actually own their value. Really common thing. But trust me when I say that everyone I work with, at their core, they have something that is of the same value as curing cancer is for those people in this example. So when it comes to the offer, it is about being in integrity with serving people and being authentic with your desire to serve. And there's an intention to bring to it as well, which is that people sign up with you by the end of your presentation. So some ways to do that would be to, one, like we said, the 3 things inside your content, that should be the 3 things that your package fulfills upon, the 3 things it does. So in this package, we're going to change your whole mindset around food, then you're going to have a partnership program where you're going to have accountability and structure and so on, right? So it's the same 3 things you told them they needed, the same 3 things in the offer. And that's just really structurally smart to do it that way. because then your audience has been following along and saying, yes, yes, I need these things. And then conveniently enough, that's exactly what your package does. So another thing to consider is really making it clear that there's a fork in the road where they could either not get support at the end of this presentation, and that's going to carry one set of repercussions and consequences to it. And then the other path is that they do get support and how their life will be transformed. And I encourage people to really be direct when it comes to this. There's nothing sleazy about it. If you really believe this is true, just exposing the facts. People live in denial way too often. And this is the state of being comfortably numb, where they feel, oh, it's okay, I'm fine. But they're really not. And it's our job to illuminate this fact and make it known that things could be so much better and the potential is so much greater. I believe that's a huge role of the speaker, is to hold this new context, this greater possibility for their lives, and the audience can see for themselves. When you look at someone like Martin Luther King, he saw a greater possibility for the people that he was speaking to than they saw for themselves. His whole I Have a Dream was based on that. Regardless of what your skin color was, there's a greater context than we saw for ourselves. Speakers have to do that. And in that space, then you just make it easy for them to say yes. You can invite them into a one-on-one session with you. When our clients are starting out, oftentimes it's a complimentary session, just as an easy way to have a lot of one-on-one appointments with people. And then in those appointments, you can offer them something at the end of the appointment, as you see will be serving to them. You can offer your book. You can offer a live event. I encourage you not to offer them going to your website, because that's actually a step backwards. You can mention that, but don't make that the main thing, because you're already taking the relationship offline. If you think of it like dating, how dating works nowadays, oftentimes it starts online, but you want to get it offline is the goal. So with speaking, you've already taken it offline. Don't put it back online. It doesn't make sense. You want to build on the offline relationship. So that would mean meeting one-on-one typically, and then offering them something at the end of the one-on-one. So those are the 4 elements, Christy. This is something that I've used over and over again myself, and our clients have done. And it's been the system that anytime something doesn't work with a presentation, I always ask, well, what did you leave out? And then invariably it's something like, oh, well, the content didn't match the offer, or as we break down the offer structure, they did it differently, and then it didn't result in the signups they wanted. So let me turn it back to you.
So the 4 elements to speaking from the stage, signature talk, are the opening, the personal story, the content, and then your offer. Is that correct?
Perfect. Yes, it is. You have an advantage, though, because you've been to my seminars before.
Well, you know, somebody that doesn't know what a signature talk is, and they're really scared of speaking, how can they benefit? What would be an advantage of having a signature talk, incorporating a signature talk in their business?
Yeah, well, I can tell you from firsthand experience that I was making no money in my business until I had the signature talk. I didn't know how to bring clients in. I remember cold calling people. Oh, what a horrendous experience cold calling is. And the convincing of them, and I was effectively a telemarketer. And these are people I knew, and it was really awkward, and they didn't want to talk to me, and it was awkward, and I saw them again later in person. Or trying to figure out the online thing, where I didn't really enjoy online, spending long amounts of time behind a computer, because to me, the biggest transformation, what I'm really committed to, happens like at seminars and in-person events. So for people like me, and I know there's a lot of us out there, this is the best fit, where if you experience transformation, education, if you feel going to an in-person event is the best way for you to do that, then you should absolutely be on stage as a way for you to grow your business. It's about alignment. that which you receive most is that which you will put out the best. Okay. So I don't believe in this disconnect of like, oh, I see a speaker on stage and I can't do that, but they can. You can absolutely do it. That's why you're inspired by it, because there's some kind of sacred connection that's happening between you and the speaker where you feel enlivened by it. That's how I felt when I first saw Les Brown or Lisa Nichols. I felt that awakening within myself. And that's how I knew, like, okay, that's what I want to do. I can do that. And because I feel called to do it, I know I can. And just from a business standpoint, just to touch upon that further, it's relieved so much of the stress and anxiety. And I believe that when you have the stress and anxiety relieved, where you don't have to worry like, oh, can I do this? Can I not? Can I make clients happen or not? You just know that, all right, I got 2 speaking gigs on the calendar. That's going to cover me for the next month or 2, right? In terms of the clients that I generate from that, and then get more speaking gigs so that you can grow beyond that. To have that certainty, in my view, really allows you to be more relaxed, authentic, and live your purpose more fully.
So what is the difference between keynotes, doing a keynote, and signature talk? What is the difference?
Well, the difference is really between a keynote and what we call platform speaking. So you can have a signature talk applied to a keynote scenario or to platform speaking. Let's define, though, what each of those are. So a keynote is getting paid to speak. So when a corporation hires, say, Adam Sandler to deliver a keynote, or a university hires a motivational speaker to come in, that person might make, say, $5,000 to come in and give an hour-long presentation. That's called a keynote. And I personally have not yet gone down that path, partly because, actually almost entirely, because I find platform speaking to be a lot more gratifying myself. So what platform speaking is, speaking as marketing. So you're not getting paid to speak. The money you make from speaking is all on the back end. It's all about that offer going well and that being a bridge to the audience to keep working with you. And just to kind of put apples to apples together, in a keynote speaking gig, to my understanding, having done some research into it, $5,000 would be considered a pretty good honorarium to get for a speaking gig as a keynoter. Oftentimes, that doesn't even include your travel expenses. So when you take that out, you might be knocked down to easily $3,500 or so. And then you're there with them for an hour, and then that's the end of the relationship until the next time they hire you. With the platform speaking, at the end of the hour, it's the beginning of the relationship. And when they say yes to your offer at the end, you would be able to earn, oftentimes on the first level of purchase, it could be, say, $5,000 or $10,000. And then from there, you can upgrade people to a next level beyond that, which might be, say, worth $25,000 in terms of the total revenue, right, from that next level offer. So then altogether, you might make $35,000 from one stage, one speaking gig. That's how you have to think in terms of what's the cumulative revenue. Ideally, you would get a combination where you could be paid to speak and make an offer at the end. And if you're able to have that, God bless you, go for those opportunities. Get as many of those as you can. I personally haven't done that myself. And honestly, I found that the platform speaking stages have been so lucrative and, for me, fulfilling, in the sense that at the end of the hour, I know it's the beginning of our relationship, that we're going to roll up our sleeves and dive deep into this and be able to make a huge difference for people. I find that really gratifying as well.
Okay, so because that's one of the areas that people really get confused, which is the platform versus keynote. So you really explained it very well. I've always said that, I remember before I came to your course, which I still talk about up till today, telling personal story wasn't a place I wanted to go, because I was at the place at that time where, of course, you know me, always thinking that everybody is thinking about me. But when I realized that nobody is thinking about me, and I've always said, if I had known that years ago, I would have gone ahead and do what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And language barriers seem to be the thing for me because English is a second language to me. And at a point, I would go to an event and I would never open my mouth because in my mind, I figure if I say something, I may not say it the right way and everybody will be looking at me. That was the thought then, not now.
Mm.
So in doing the personal story, some of it can be very vulnerable. You can have people talking about sexual abuse, physical abuse, and so on and so forth. How do you have your clients get over not worrying so much, but get the story out?
So you're asking, how do I empower my clients to be able to express themselves
Correct.
authentically on stage, no matter how dark or unpleasant those stories
Yes.
might be?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a really great question. The first shift that needs to happen is to recognize the absolute good in you sharing your personal story. If the context that you have around it, like your mindset, is that, oh, this is so embarrassing, I'm going to be judged, I can't let this get out about me because it's going to ruin me. If you have that kind of context about it, then you're just not going to do it, or you're going to do it and it's going to be so stiff and uncomfortable for you, that's going to be so uncomfortable for the audience, you might as well not do it, right? So we have to always embrace the absolute good. And this is one reason I love the transformational industry, is because it's a world of absolute good. That's my view of it. And the human factor can distort and manipulate this oftentimes. But conceptually, I see it as an absolute good versus, say, the cigarette business is not an absolute good in terms of when their business grows, it doesn't make the world a better place per se. But when the transformational leaders are growing their businesses, the world does become a better place. How that applies to sharing your personal stories, and we've had people come up on our stage who've had incidents of all kinds of abuse. And for them, that's the personal story that they're meant to share, right? Not always, but oftentimes it's the thing that they've now felt called to with empowering others with, and so that they don't have to experience abuse of any kind, right? So it makes sense that this be the personal story that they share. And the mindset shift around it is to see the absolute good. Now, here's some ways you can really quantify the absolute good. One, would it be healing for myself to be sharing this story, right? That would be one of the ways that you can say, well, yes, it would. Therefore, I'm meant to be sharing it. If I can have the opportunity to express this and feel that, wow, I have power over this experience, the experience doesn't have power over me any longer. I'm thinking of some specific people that we've had on stage that we've had that key shift with them and being able to share that. Another one is, does it empower others, right? What exactly does this bring to their lives hearing it? Oftentimes, when you really consider that question, you'll realize that an audience member will really feel like, wow, I'm not alone in this. I really don't have it that bad. I'm not broken. Right? And any speaker I've worked with, they recognize that's something that they really want people to feel. I'm thinking specifically that feeling of, I'm not broken, I'm okay, my life is not messed up beyond repair, right? And when you're able to share a really dark personal story, you're able to communicate that to your audience. And in that connection place, they're able to see themselves in it and then become able to create something that they perhaps could not otherwise create. They might have been crippled by this experience had you not shared that. And instead, they're able to create a new pathway in life. And to me, this is where it's such a profound honor to be the steward of this transformation for people. We can't lose sight of that. I mean, the business aside, I mean, this is really what it's about.
So what do you think is one mistake or a mistake or two that you have really come to see in your clients in telling their personal story, or just signature talk in general?
I'll say with personal story, the most common mistakes, I'll talk about delivery. So not so much what they say, but more how they say it from stage. Most common mistakes would be to not slow down when they're supposed to slow down. They'll go too fast, specifically during these darker periods of their life. And maybe because they're nervous and feeling vulnerable. So they'll kind of like, just like if you're like a house is on fire, you just want to run through it as fast as possible, right? It's kind of like that, that instinct. But really, it's not like a house is on fire. This is where the most beautiful connection can happen with your audience. So you really want to slow down and be with them as much as possible. One of the distinctions that I tell my clients is that treat every word like you're giving the audience $5,000. Treat every word like you're giving the audience $5,000. This tends to make people rethink how quickly they speak from stage and to really choose their words carefully. When you look at someone like President Obama, how deliberately and slowly he spoke from stage, there is a real mastery factor to that in terms of connecting with an audience. When it comes to signature talk in general, common mistake, I would say is probably rushing the offer, not doing the offer justice. So that's another time where slowing down would benefit speakers. I would say beyond that, being genuinely excited about the offer. When you're making your offer, it should be with the same pride and excitement of when you talk about your children and the extraordinary things that they're creating in the world. There should be this like swelling of excitement and joy. Like, I can't wait to bring this into your lives. And with that, this non-attachment to whether you love it as much as I do. I mean, it'd be great if you loved as much as I do, but I can't expect everyone to love it as much as I do because you don't see what I see. But the fact that you're coming from this place of pride and love and excitement, that's your best shot at other people relating to it that same way, right? Which is quite the opposite of thinking of an offer as sleazy or uncomfortable or any of those things. But you coming from this place of, I'm just so in love with this package and I'm so excited to share it with you, is going to maximize the amount of people who say yes.
You know, Jon, I have to really say that I have benefited tremendously from taking your course. And the authenticity that I find in you and in your teaching is just something that I appreciate so much. And time and time again, I tell people about you. And testimonial, your work speaks for itself. You don't need much testimonial, but your work speaks for itself. So I do appreciate all you do. And in closing, I just want to ask you one more thing, and that is, tell our audience and people that are watching now and people that may be watching later on, what are really the benefits? Give us like 3 benefits of using the signature talk to monetize your stage presence or to grow your business.
I would say 3 benefits would be, 1 is financial, right? We have to make that one of the 3, is that it'll give you this earning power in your business that simply does not exist without it. 2 is the transformation that you'll spread into people's lives, where it's not going to be this sporadic hit or miss kind of thing. You'll have this system for reliably producing transformation into people's lives. And the third, to me is the personal evolution, is how through continually telling your story and sharing your signature talk, that you do evolve as a person. And a lot of people think that, and this is something I could have said earlier, that a signature talk is somehow robotic or too canned or boring to have to do the same talk over and over and over again. And the reality is that that only is boring in theory, that when you're actually doing it, what happens is that you're able to relax because you know your material and be your authentic self. An example I use is if, say, an actor doesn't know their lines and says, I'm such a great actor, I don't even learn my lines, and they go up there and just improvise. It's a big mess for the other actors on stage, for the audience, can't follow what's going on at all. But when an actor really knows their lines cold and then goes on stage and says, all right, I'm just going to improvise, that's how you create magic. And some of the best moments in concerts or theater or movies have been because someone knows their material and then goes out and improvises. That's where the magic gets created. And to me, there's fewer greater highs than that. Like, I don't need to jump out of an airplane or do drugs, because that's the high I get is from speaking. And that's what I really want for everyone, because I know it's not unique to me. It's anyone who does it knows what I'm talking about.
Well, thank you so much. And at this time, I know you have a lot of things in the work that you're doing with your clients, and our audience would like to get information on how to contact you and work with you. So what do you have coming on, and how can they contact you?
Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing I'm going to invite you to do is I do have a gift, and it's this visionary speaker quiz, and something new that I'm pretty excited about. It's a little bit rough, so bear with me in the design, but the reason that I created this is that I wanted to give people the opportunity to really get a sense of where they are along their speaker journey. And there's quite a few pieces to having a successful speaking career. And I thought it'd be cool just to really lay it all out and say, this is exactly what you need to know. And if you can check these boxes, and you're in really great shape. So this quiz only takes about 4 minutes to go through. And there'll be some questions on there around your commitment level. And if it's something that would be a fit for us to explore working together, then you can fill out those questions, and then we can actually schedule a one-on-one session to dive deeper into this. So I'm going to give you the link in the chat box. It's visionaryspeakerquiz.com. That's it in the chat box, and you can click on that link right now and go straight to the quiz. That'd be my recommendation, is you, while this conversation is really present for you, is to click on it and just start filling that out. Like I said, it only takes about 4 minutes, and then we get connected right away, get the results, and can follow up with you. I see Rukia, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, has questions. Should we take the question, Lady Christy?